The ultimatum. The night sky over Earth erupted in a dazzling spectacle of light, as if 1,000 suns had suddenly ignited. In every major city, from New York to Tokyo, Rio to Moscow, millions of startled faces turned skyward. The phenomenon was impossible to ignore, drowning out the stars and bathing the planet in an eerie, pulsating glow. Dr. Sarah Chen, hunched over her laptop in Berkeley's Advanced Astrophysics Lab, nearly spilled her coffee as the room lit up. Her eyes darted to the wall of monitors displaying real-time data from observatories worldwide. Every graph was spiking off the charts. "What the hell?" she muttered, fingers flying across the keyboard. The readings defied explanation. Gravitational anomalies, unprecedented electromagnetic pulses, and radiation patterns that shouldn't exist in nature. Sarah's phone buzzed incessantly. Colleagues from every corner of the globe were reaching out, their messages a cacophony of confusion and excitement. But as she absorbed the data flooding her screens, excitement gave way to a creeping dread. Whatever this was, it was big, and it was right on top of them. Suddenly, every screen in the lab, and indeed, every electronic display device on the planet, flickered and went dark. A moment later, they blazed back to life, but now they all showed the same image: a towering, vaguely humanoid figure with iridescent skin and multiple eyes that seemed to stare directly at each viewer. When it spoke, its voice resonated not from speakers, but directly in the minds of every human on Earth. "People of the planet you call Earth," the figure intoned, its voice a discordant melody that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. "I am Ambassador Zixel of the Galactic Imperium. Your world now stands at the precipice of a monumental decision." The beam's eyes blinked in unsettling asynchrony as it continued. "For millennia, we have observed your species from afar. We have watched your struggles, your triumphs, your wars, and your scientific advancements. Until now, you have been deemed too primitive to address. That time has passed." Sarah's mind raced. First contact. After years of searching the stars, of straining to hear a whisper from the cosmos, here they were. But something in the ambassador's tone filled her with apprehension. "Humanity," Zixel declared, "you have been judged and found wanting. Your species' capacity for violence, your reckless exploitation of your own world, and your rapid technological advancement without commensurate wisdom. All these make you a threat to galactic peace." Gasps and cries of protest erupted in the lab, mirrored in homes and public spaces across the globe. Sarah found herself gripping the edge of her desk, knuckles white. The ambassador's expression remained impassive. "Therefore, by decree of the Galactic Imperium, you are hereby ordered to evacuate your home world. You have 1 solar cycle, what you would call 1 Earth year, to leave this planet. Those who comply will be relocated to suitable colony worlds under Imperium supervision. Those who resist will face annihilation." The world seemed to tilt on its axis. Sarah felt a wave of nausea and disbelief wash over her. This couldn't be happening. It was too surreal, too catastrophic to comprehend. Zixel wasn't finished. "To demonstrate the futility of resistance, we will now neutralize your most potent weapons." As if on cue, reports began flooding in from military installations worldwide. Nuclear silos were spontaneously disarming. Warships were powering down, dead in the water. Fighter jets fell from the sky like stones, their pilots ejecting in panic. "This is but a fraction of our power," the ambassador stated coldly. "Comply, and you may yet have a future among the stars. Resist, and your species ends. You have 1 solar cycle. Choose wisely." The transmission cut off abruptly, leaving billions in stunned silence. For a moment, the only sound in Sarah's lab was the hum of computers and the ragged breathing of her colleagues. Then, as if a dam had burst, chaos erupted. Phones rang incessantly. Alarms blared. Outside, they could hear screams and the distant wail of sirens. The world as they knew it had just been turned upside down, and panic was setting in fast. Sarah, her lab partner, Alex, grabbed her arm. "We need to get out of here. It's not safe." But Sarah wasn't listening. Her eyes were fixed on one of the monitors, displaying a live feed from one of their orbital telescopes. The alien ships were visible now, a vast armada of sleek, otherworldly vessels that dwarfed anything humanity had ever built. As she watched, one of the smaller ships fired what looked like a warning shot at a terrestrial satellite. The beam lanced out, blindingly bright, and for just a split second, the ship seemed to flicker, as if it wasn't quite there. "Did you see that?" Sarah whispered. "See what?" "Come on, we need to go." Alex tugged at her arm more insistently. Sarah shook her head, eyes still glued to the screen. "No, wait. Something's not right here." She rewound the footage, playing it back frame by frame. There it was again, that momentary flicker. "What are you doing?" Alex demanded, fear evident in his voice. "The world is ending, and you're reviewing footage." Sarah finally turned to face him, her eyes blazing with a mixture of fear and determination. "The world isn't ending, Alex. At least, I don't think it is. Something's off about these aliens. That ship, it flickered, like a hologram with a glitch." Alex stared at her, uncomprehending. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying," Sarah replied slowly, her mind racing ahead of her words, "that we might not be seeing the full picture here. These aliens, their technology, it's advanced, yes, but it's not infallible. There's something they're not telling us, maybe something they're afraid of." She turned back to her computer, fingers flying across the keyboard as she began to compile data. "We need to analyze everything. Their ships, their transmission, the effects on our technology. There's a puzzle here, and we need to solve it before it's too late." Alex looked from Sarah to the chaos outside, then back again. Slowly, understanding dawned in his eyes. "You think we can fight back?" Sarah met his gaze, a glimmer of hope cutting through the fear. "I think we need to try. Because if there's one thing these aliens don't understand about humanity, it's this. We don't give up. Not ever." As the world outside descended into panic, Dr. Sarah Chen and her team hunkered down in their lab, beginning a race against time. They had 1 year to unravel the mysteries of an alien ultimatum, to find a weakness in a seemingly invincible foe. 1 year to save humanity from exile or extinction. The Galactic Imperium had made their move. Now it was humanity's turn to respond. And if Sarah was right, the aliens were in for one hell of a surprise. The hidden truth. As dawn broke over a shell-shocked planet, Dr. Sarah Chen hadn't slept a wink. Her lab at Berkeley had transformed into a war room, screens flickering with data streams and simulations. Empty coffee cups littered every surface, testament to the night's feverish work. "Sarah, you need to see this." Alex's voice cut through her concentration. He pointed to a monitor displaying a live news feed. World leaders were gathered for an emergency UN session, their faces drawn and haggard. The U.S. president stepped up to the podium, his usual confidence replaced by grim resignation. "My fellow citizens of Earth," he began, his voice wavering. "After careful consideration, and in light of the overwhelming technological superiority demonstrated by the Galactic Imperium, we have no choice but to comply with their demands. We must begin preparations for evacuation immediately." Sarah felt her heart sink. "They're giving up without a fight," she murmured. Alex nodded grimly. "Can you blame them? Did you see what those aliens did to our military? We don't stand a chance." But Sarah wasn't listening. Her eyes had locked onto something in the background of the newsfeed, a small spherical object hovering near the UN building. "That's it," she exclaimed, startling her colleagues. "That's our way in." "What are you talking about?" Alex asked, bewildered. Sarah pointed at the screen. "That sphere, it's an alien probe. They've got them positioned all over the world. If we can get our hands on one." Understanding dawned on Alex's face. We could study their tech up close. Exactly. Sarah nodded. And I think I know how we can get one. What followed was a whirlwind of activity. Using their university connections, Sarah's team reached out to a network of hackers and tech enthusiasts worldwide. Within hours, they had located a probe in a less guarded area of San Francisco. Under cover of night, Sarah led a small team to the location. The sphere hovered silently in an abandoned lot, its smooth surface reflecting the dim streetlights. "Okay," Sarah whispered. "Let's do this." They approached cautiously, EMP devices at the ready. On Sarah's signal, they activated the EMPs. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then, with a soft whine, the probe dropped to the ground. "Quick," Sarah hissed. They rushed forward, bundling the deactivated probe into a waiting van. Back at the lab, they worked feverishly to decrypt the probe's data. Hours passed with no progress. Frustration mounted as each attempt was rebuffed by the alien encryption. Then, just as despair began to set in, a breakthrough came from an unexpected source. "I've got something," cried Zara, a young postgrad with a talent for cryptography. "It's not the main data core, but I've accessed some kind of personal log. It's from one of their scientists." The team huddled around her screen as she pulled up the decrypted files. What they saw made their jaws drop. The log was a video diary of sorts, showing a clearly agitated alien scientist. Its form was similar to the ambassador they'd seen, but this one's iridescent skin was dulled, its multiple eyes sunken. "If anyone finds this," the alien began, its telepathic voice weak but urgent, "you must know the truth. The Imperium's ultimatum is built on lies and fear." Sarah leaned in closer, hardly daring to breathe. "Humanity is not a threat to galactic peace," the scientist continued. "You are a threat to the Imperium's power. Your world, your bodies, they contain something we call the Omega potential, an energy source beyond anything we've ever encountered." The alien's eyes darted nervously off-screen. "The Imperium fears this potential. They fear that if humanity were to harness it, you would become more powerful than they could ever hope to be. This ultimatum, this show of force, it's all a desperate attempt to neutralize you before you realize your true strength." The revelation hit Sarah like a physical blow. They weren't being evicted because they were dangerous. They were being evicted because they were powerful. But the alien scientist wasn't finished. "There's more. The energy field that permeates your planet, it's undetectable to our standard technology. It interferes with our most potent weapons. The demonstration of power you witnessed was the extent of what we can safely deploy on Earth, if humanity were to weaponize this energy." Suddenly, the alien stiffened, looking off-screen in panic. The video cut off abruptly. Silence fell over the lab as the implications sank in. "My God," Alex whispered, "we're not defenseless. We've been sitting on the greatest weapon in the galaxy and didn't even know it." Sarah's mind was racing. This changes everything. But how do we harness this energy? How do we convince the world leaders to fight back when they've already decided to surrender? As if in answer to her question, alarms began blaring from their communication systems. Reports flooded in from around the globe. Riots were breaking out as news of the evacuation plan spread. Martial law was being declared in major cities. "We're running out of time," Zara said, her voice tight with tension. Sarah stood up, determination blazing in her eyes. "Then we'll make our own time. Alex, start analyzing that probe's tech. Find out how they're masking their vulnerabilities. Zara, dig deeper into that encryption. See if there's anything else we can learn. I'm going to reach out to some old contacts in the government. If we can get this information to the right people." "What if they don't believe us?" Alex asked. Sarah's expression hardened. "Then we'll have to take matters into our own hands. One way or another, we're going to unlock this Omega potential. Humanity won't go quietly into exile. We're going to show the Galactic Imperium exactly what we're capable of." As her team sprang into action with renewed vigor, Sarah allowed herself a moment of grim reflection. The odds were stacked against them, an entire planet to convince, a hostile alien force to overcome, and an unknown power to harness. But for the first time since the aliens arrived, they had hope. A chance, however slim, to fight back. To not just survive, but to thrive. The Galactic Imperium had sought to squash humanity's potential before it could bloom. Instead, they had inadvertently nurtured the very thing they feared. As Sarah turned back to her work, a quote from an old Earth movie flitted through her mind. Life finds a way. She allowed herself a small, defiant smile. Humanity had found its way. Now, it was time to forge a path to the stars, on their own terms. Operation Omega. The world was a powder keg, and the fuse was burning fast. As news of the impending evacuation spread, society teetered on the brink of collapse. Governments struggled to maintain order while secretly preparing for exile. But in hidden labs and forgotten bunkers across the globe, a resistance was taking root. Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a hastily assembled group of scientists, engineers, and military personnel. The conference room, buried deep within a repurposed Cold War bunker, hummed with nervous energy. Ladies and gentlemen, Sarah began, her voice steady despite the weight on her shoulders. Welcome to Operation Omega. What I'm about to share with you is highly classified, and quite frankly, our last hope. Over the next hour, Sarah laid out everything her team had discovered. The Omega potential, the limitations of the alien technology, and their desperate plan to turn the tables on the Galactic Imperium. Our goal is simple, she concluded. Harness the Omega potential and use it to defend Earth. We have less than 6 months before the evacuation begins in earnest. It's not much time, but it's all we've got. The room erupted in a flurry of questions and exclamations. Sarah fielded them as best she could, acutely aware of the clock ticking down. As the meeting adjourned, a gruff voice called out, "Dr. Chen, a word." Sarah turned to find General Laura Hayes, one of the few high-ranking military officials who had believed her story. "Walk with me," Hayes said, leading Sarah down a corridor. "That was quite a bombshell you dropped in there. You really think we can pull this off?" Sarah nodded firmly. "We have to, General. It's not just about saving Earth anymore. If the Imperium succeeds in exiling us, they'll control the Omega potential. The consequences for the galaxy would be catastrophic." Hayes' expression hardened. "Agreed. You'll have whatever resources we can spare, but be careful, Proctor. Not everyone is as convinced as I am. There are those who would rather comply with the aliens than risk annihilation." Sarah's response was cut short by a distant rumble. The bunker shook, dust raining from the ceiling. What was that? Sarah gasped. Hayes was already moving, barking orders into her comm unit. Perimeter breach. All personnel to battle stations. They raced to the command center, arriving to scenes of chaos. On the main screen, camera feeds showed a group of sleek, humanoid robots tearing through the bunker's defenses. "Alien infiltrators," Hayes growled. "How the hell did they find us?" Sarah's blood ran cold as realization dawned. The probe. They must have tracked it when we reactivated it. "This is my fault." Hayes gripped her shoulder. "No time for that now. We need to evacuate. If they get their hands on our research." Sarah nodded grimly. "I'll wipe the servers. You get everyone out." As Hayes coordinated the evacuation, Sarah raced to the main lab. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, initiating the data purge. A crash behind her made her spin around. One of the alien robots had broken through. Its featureless face turned towards her, arm raising to fire. Sarah dove behind a desk as energy bolts sizzled overhead. Frantically, she looked for a way out. Her eyes fell on the captured alien probe, still sitting on a workbench. A crazy idea formed. Sarah made a dash for the probe, narrowly avoiding another barrage of energy bolts. She scooped up the sphere and, with all her might, hurled it at the robot. The moment the probe touched the infiltrator, there was a blinding flash. When Sarah's vision cleared, Both the robot and the probe were gone, leaving only a scorched mark on the floor. Electromagnetic incompatibility, Sarah muttered, a glimmer of hope kindling in her mind. We might be able to use that. Alarms blaring, she joined the stream of evacuees racing for the emergency exits. As they emerged into the night air, helicopters descended to whisk them away to backup locations. In the days that followed, Operation Omega regrouped and redoubled its efforts. The attack had been a setback, but it had also provided valuable data on the aliens' capabilities and weaknesses. Sarah's team worked around the clock, repurposing particle accelerators to detect and amplify the Omega energy field. Engineers labored to adapt fusion reactors to the new power source, while weapons developers sought ways to weaponize it. Progress was rapid, but not without cost. Sabotage attempts became frequent, forcing them to work in smaller, isolated groups. Sarah herself narrowly escaped an assassination attempt, saved only by the quick thinking of her security detail. As the deadline drew nearer, tension mounted. They had successfully harnessed small amounts of Omega energy, but scaling up proved challenging. Each failure sent ripples of despair through the team. 4 months into the project, they faced their biggest hurdle yet. The first full-scale test of an Omega-powered shield generator was about to begin. Sarah stood in the control room, surrounded by banks of monitors and anxious faces. In the test chamber below, the generator hummed to life. Power level stable, a technician called out. Initiating shield in 3, 2, 1. A shimmering field of energy blossomed from the generator, expanding rapidly. For a moment, hope soared. Then, everything went wrong. The shield pulsed, sending out waves of energy that shorted out every system in the facility. In the test chamber, the generator began to glow white-hot. It's overloading, someone shouted. We need to shut it down. But the emergency systems were fried. They could only watch in horror as the generator reached critical mass. The explosion rocked the entire complex. When the dust settled, the test chamber was a smoking ruin. Silence fell over the control room, broken only by the crackle of small fires and the groan of stressed metal. Sarah stared at the devastation, her mind racing. They were so close, but time was running out. In just 2 months, the forced evacuation would begin. She turned to her team, seeing the defeat in their eyes. This was the moment, she realized. Either they gave up, or they pushed forward. Listen to me, she said, her voice cutting through the gloom. What we just saw wasn't a failure. It was proof. Proof that the Omega energy is real, and more powerful than we imagined. We can do this. We will do this. She moved to a whiteboard, began sketching rapidly. The problem isn't the energy itself. It's our approach. We've been trying to contain it, control it. But what if we work with it instead? Let it flow naturally, guide it rather than force it. As she outlined her new theory, she saw hope rekindling in her colleagues' eyes. They had suffered a setback, yes, but they weren't beaten. Not yet. We have 2 months, Sarah concluded. 2 months to perfect this technology, to turn a theory into a planetary defense system. It's going to take everything we've got. But remember what we're fighting for. Not just our homes, our planet. We're fighting for humanity's future among the stars. She looked around the room, met each pair of eyes. Are you with me? The response was unanimous. As one, the team turned back to their stations, reinvigorated and determined. Sarah allowed herself a small smile. The Galactic Imperium had no idea what was coming. Humanity was down, but far from out. The real Operation Omega was just beginning. Humanity's stand, the day of reckoning had arrived. 1 year to the minute since the Galactic Imperium's ultimatum, their massive fleet descended from the stars, blotting out the sun over every major city on Earth. The message was clear. Time's up. In New York, London, Beijing, and 100 other locations, people gathered in streets and squares, staring up at the alien armada with a mixture of fear and defiance. The evacuation ships, hastily constructed over the past year, stood ready, but they would remain empty. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, in the heart of a sprawling underground complex, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before a bank of monitors. Each screen showed a different city, a different alien ship poised to strike. Her team worked feverishly around her, making last-minute adjustments to their global network of Omega generators. "Status report," Sarah called out, her voice steady despite the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. "Western Hemisphere, online and ready," came the first response. "Eastern Hemisphere, all systems go," echoed another. One by one, each sector reported in. The planet-wide Omega defense grid was primed and ready. Now, they just needed the aliens to make their move. They didn't have to wait long. The comm system crackled to life with a familiar, chilling voice. Ambassador Zixel's holographic form materialized in the center of the command room. "Humans of Earth," the alien intoned, its multiple eyes blinking in that unsettling, asynchronous pattern. "Your time has expired. We see your pitiful evacuation ships. A noble but futile effort. You have one last chance to board them and leave your world behind. Resist, and you will be eradicated." Sarah stepped forward, her chin held high. "Ambassador Zixel," she said, her voice ringing out clearly, "on behalf of humanity, I have a message for you and the Galactic Imperium." She paused, meeting the alien's gaze unflinchingly. "We are staying." For a moment, the ambassador seemed taken aback. Then its expression hardened. "So be it. You have chosen extinction." The hologram vanished. On the monitors, the alien ships began to power up their weapons. "This is it. People," Sarah called out. "Activate the Omega shield on my mark." The tension in the room was palpable as they watched the alien weapons charge. Energy beams lanced out from the ships, streaking towards Earth's surface. "Now," Sarah shouted. A technician slammed his hand down on a large red button. For a heart-stopping moment, nothing happened. Then the impossible occurred. All around the globe, a shimmering iridescent field of energy erupted from the ground. It spread with breathtaking speed, enveloping cities, continents, and finally, the entire planet in a dazzling protective bubble. The alien energy beams struck the shield and dissipated, not just deflected, but absorbed, making the shield glow even brighter. In the command center, a cheer went up, but Sarah knew this was just the beginning. "Don't celebrate yet," she warned. "Let's see how they respond to this." On the screens, they watched as the alien fleet reeled in apparent shock. Then, with renewed determination, they opened fire again, and again, and again. Each barrage was more intense than the last, but the Omega shield held firm. More than that, it seemed to be growing stronger with each attack. "It's working even better than we hoped," Alex said, wonder in his voice as he studied the incoming data. "The shield isn't just blocking their attacks. It's absorbing the energy and integrating it into its own matrix." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "Then let's take this to the next level." Prepared to initiate Phase 2. As the alien fleet continued its futile assault, Sarah's team worked to reconfigure the Omega network. What had been purely defensive was about to become humanity's greatest weapon. "Phase 2 ready," Zara reported from her station. Sarah took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. "Execute." The Omega shield pulsed, and then it expanded. Tendrils of energy reached out into space, engulfing the nearest alien ships. Alarms blared as the vessels suddenly lost power, their weapons and engines shutting down. "My God," someone whispered. It worked. But the battle was far from over. The Imperium's flagship, a behemoth that dwarfed all other ships, moved into position. It fired a beam of such intensity that the very fabric of space seemed to warp around it. The Omega shield buckled under the onslaught. In the command center, systems overloaded, showering the room with sparks. "We're losing containment," Alex shouted over the din of alarms. The shield can't take this kind of punishment. Sarah's mind raced. They were so close. They couldn't fail now. Then an idea struck her. A dangerous, possibly suicidal idea. The shield's not failing, she said, sudden clarity in her voice. It's evolving. But it needs a catalyst. She turned to her team. I'm going up there. What? Sarah, no. Alex protested. It's too dangerous. But Sarah was already moving. The Omega energy responds to conscious thought. I hypothesize that direct human interaction might amplify its effects. Looks like it's time to test that theory. Before anyone could stop her, she was sprinting for the hangar bay. An experimental Omega-powered craft waited there, untested but theoretically capable of spaceflight. As Sarah strapped herself in, Alex's voice came over the comm. Sarah, please, we need you here. No, she replied, firing up the engines. You've got this. Earth needs me up there. The craft shot out of the mountain like a bullet from a gun, streaking towards the atmosphere. As she breached the Omega shield, Sarah felt a surge of energy course through her. The ship responded to her thoughts, moving with impossible speed and agility. In moments, she was in space, facing down the Imperium's flagship. It dwarfed her tiny craft, its weapons primed to fire again. Sarah closed her eyes, focusing all her will on the Omega energy surrounding her. Come on, she whispered. Show me what you can really do. The energy responded. It flowed through her, through the ship, expanding outward in a wave of pure possibility. It washed over the alien fleet, and where it touched, it transformed. Weapons turned to flowers. Hull plating became gossamer. And at the center of it all, Sarah hung suspended in space, glowing with the power of a newborn star. When she opened her eyes, the Imperium fleet was in chaos. Ships drifted, transformed into works of art or strange, benign creatures. And before her, the flagship had become a shimmering palace of light. A familiar figure appeared at its gates, Ambassador Zixel, but changed. Gone was the cold arrogance, replaced by awe, and not a little fear. What are you? The ambassador asked, its mental voice trembling. Sarah smiled, feeling the power of the cosmos flowing through her. We are humanity. We are the Omega potential. And we are no longer bound by your limitations. As the transformed fleet hung in stunned silence, Sarah turned her gaze to the stars beyond. The Galactic Imperium had sought to constrain humanity's potential. Instead, they had catapulted it into a new era of cosmic awareness. Earth had not just survived, it had transcended, and the universe would never be the same. A new dawn. In the aftermath of humanity's stand against the Galactic Imperium, Earth hung in space, wreathed in a softly pulsing Omega field. The transformed alien fleet drifted nearby, a silent testament to the power humanity had unleashed. And at the center of it all floated Dr. Sarah Chen, her body suffused with cosmic energy, her mind expanded beyond the boundaries of normal human consciousness. As the hours ticked by, the stunned silence gave way to a flurry of activity. The news of Earth's victory spread across the planet like wildfire, sparking celebrations in every corner of the globe. But with jubilation came uncertainty. What would this new reality mean for humanity? Sarah, still suspended in space, found herself at a crossroads. The Omega energy thrummed through her, offering glimpses of realities and possibilities beyond imagination. She could reshape the galaxy with a thought, rewrite the laws of physics on a whim. The power was intoxicating, terrifying. A gentle mental probe interrupted her reverie. Ambassador Zixel, still aboard the transformed flagship, reached out tentatively. Dr. Chen, the alien's thoughts whispered. What happens now? Sarah turned her attention to the ambassador, seeing the being not just with her eyes, but with her newly expanded senses. She saw fear there, yes, but also curiosity, wonder, and a glimmer of hope. Now, Sarah replied, her voice resonating across space itself. We talk. With a gesture, she created a neutral space, a shimmering platform of pure energy midway between Earth and the alien fleet. There, representatives from Earth met with Zixel and other members of the Imperium's leadership. The negotiations that followed would reshape the galaxy. Sarah, acting as a mediator, broadcasted the proceedings to every corner of Earth and to the far reaches of the Imperium's territory. Billions watched as humanity took its place on the galactic stage. "The Galactic Imperium as you knew it is no more," Sarah declared, her voice carrying the weight of cosmic law. "But neither will Earth seek to establish dominion over you. We propose a new way forward, a galactic coalition founded on principles of mutual respect, shared knowledge, and collective growth." The alien leaders shifted uncomfortably. An Imperium general, his once imposing armor now a delicate lattice of light, spoke up. "And if we refuse, will you use this Omega power to subjugate us as we sought to do to you?" Sarah's response was firm but gentle. "No. The very nature of the Omega potential rejects domination. It thrives on cooperation, on the free exchange of ideas and experiences. We could no more use it to oppress than you could use sunlight to create darkness." As the negotiations progressed, Sarah felt a shift in the Omega energy flowing through her. It was as if the power itself approved of the path being forged. With each agreement reached, each compromise struck, the energy grew more stable, more integrated with the fabric of space-time itself. But even as a new galactic order was taking shape, Sarah faced a personal dilemma. The Omega energy had changed her, elevated her to a state beyond normal humanity. Could she return to her old life? Should she? The answer came not from the cosmic awareness she now possessed, but from the very human heart still beating in her chest. As she looked down at Earth, at the faces of her friends and colleagues in the negotiation chamber, she felt a pull stronger than any gravitational force. With a smile, Sarah began to let go, not of the Omega energy itself, but of the godlike power it had temporarily granted her. She felt it spread out, dissipating not into nothingness, but into everything. Into every human on Earth, every alien in the fleet, every mote of dust in the galaxy. As Sarah floated gently back to the negotiation platform, now fully human again, but forever changed, she addressed the assembled representatives. The Omega potential was never meant for one being, or even one species, she said, her voice once again her own but carrying an echo of the cosmos. "It's the birthright of all sentient life, a bridge between the physical and the metaphysical. We've taken the first step in understanding it. Now we must learn to grow with it, together." In the days and weeks that followed, the changes wrought by humanity's stand reverberated across the galaxy. The Galactic Coalition took its first tentative steps, with Earth playing a central but not dominant role. Other subjugated species, inspired by humanity's resistance, began to assert their independence. But instead of the chaos and war the Imperium had always feared, they found a new equilibrium. The Omega potential, now awakened across the galaxy, seemed to guide civilizations towards cooperation rather than conflict. On Earth, Sarah found herself thrust into the role of humanity's ambassador to the stars. It was a position she accepted with humility and determination. The planet was transforming rapidly, Omega-enhanced technologies solving problems that had plagued humanity for centuries. Clean energy, environmental restoration, disease eradication, all became possible as humans learned to work in harmony with the Omega potential. But it wasn't all smooth sailing. Some humans, intoxicated by the new power, needed guidance to use it responsibly. Earth's governments grappled with the societal changes brought by near-limitless energy and the knowledge that they were not alone in the universe. Sarah worked tirelessly, bridging the gap between old and new, between human and alien, between the mundane and the cosmic. And through it all, she held on to the lessons learned during that pivotal moment in space. 5 years after the day of humanity's stand, Sarah stood on the observation deck of Harmony Station, a massive space habitat orbiting Earth. Below her, the planet gleamed, its continents now crisscrossed with the delicate tracery of Omega transport networks. Above, The stars beckoned, each one now a potential friend rather than a threat. Alex joined her at the window, his face older but his eyes bright with the same curiosity that had driven their research all those years ago. "Hard to believe how far we've come," he said, gazing out at the starfield. Sarah nodded. "And how far we have yet to go. The omega potential, the true nature of consciousness, the deeper mysteries of the universe. We've only scratched the surface." A shimmer in space caught their attention. A ship emerged from an omega fold, its design an elegant fusion of human ingenuity and alien aesthetics. It was the latest in a long line of exploration vessels, each pushing further into the unknown. "They're calling you the mother of a new age," Alex said, a touch of amusement in his voice. "The woman who gave birth to humanity's cosmic destiny." Sarah chuckled, shaking her head. "We all did this, Alex. Every human who refused to give up. Every alien who chose cooperation over conflict. We're all parents to this new dawn." As if in response to her words, a ripple of omega energy washed through the station, a gentle reminder of the cosmic forces that now intertwined with the fabric of everyday life. Sarah felt it resonate within her, an echo of that moment of transcendence she had experienced in space. She turned from the window, facing the future with a mix of excitement and determination. "Come on," she said to Alex. "We've got work to do. The next expedition leaves soon, and there's a whole universe out there waiting to be discovered." As they walked away, the stars seemed to twinkle a little brighter. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but transformed. The Galactic Imperium had sought to extinguish humanity's potential. Instead, they had ignited a beacon of hope that would light the way for countless civilizations across the cosmos. It was indeed a new dawn, not just for humanity, but for all sentient life in the galaxy, and the adventure was only just beginning.